Do you want to reduce the threat of heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and depression from your future? Then all you need to do is adopt this simple daily habit. And the best thing about it is there's no expensive memberships or equipment required. Hey, I'm Clive Bird, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Clive Bird Experiment, where I research subjects here on YouTube and then test them out on myself, so you don't have to. In this week's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you what I've learned about the power of walking 10,000 steps a day. So why start walking 10,000 steps a day? The average person walks between 3,000 and 4,000 steps a day. That equates to roughly 1.5 to 2 miles a day. By increasing our daily steps to 10,000 steps a day, it is believed we can reduce our risk of the most common problems we experience in old age. The threat of heart disease, obesity, high blood pressure, and depression can be reduced, even removed, by simply increasing the number of steps we do a day. 10,000 steps roughly equates to 8,000 meters or 8 kilometers or 5 miles. It takes approximately 9 minutes to walk 1,000 steps. So if your average is only 4,000 steps a day, you only need to add an hour of activity per day to get the longevity benefits. In 60 years, you will walk 172,000 kilometers. In this day and age, most of us have a smartwatch linked to our phones to record our steps. However, if you don't have a smartwatch, your smartphone will do this too. So it's easy to figure out where you stand on the activity scale. One of the common aspects of all 5 blue zones is the incorporation of natural movement into their daily lives. For those of you who have not heard, these are the regions of the world where their inhabitants live longer and with fewer ailments than the average. They have more centenarians and less of the common ailments than the rest of the world. Walking is a prime example of natural movement. Let's face it, most of us spend far too many hours sitting behind our terminals or at our desk, in front of a screen or a workstation. Our daily lives are all about convenience. Our work has become so far away from laborious, we hardly have to move at all. So it is not surprising that we are not in the best of shape and suffering from a whole range of ailments in our later life than we ever did before. By simply walking, we can improve so many parts of our body. Moving each day helps us strengthen our lungs and surrounding muscles. As the rate of volume of oxygen we inhale goes up, so does the body's ability to use it efficiently. The fitter you get, the higher your VO2 max. The more you walk, the fitter you become. Therefore, you increase your ability to take in oxygen and disperse it through your body. Walking also boosts the release of feel-good hormones like endorphins. It also increases blood flow to the brain, which results in improved cognitive function. Not only do you feel less stressed and anxious when you move regularly, but you also work towards improving your creativity, productivity, and concentration. Physical activity, particularly weight-bearing exercises, places stress on your bones, which helps improve their density and lowers the risk of osteoporosis in later life. Walking is a great place to start. Walking 10,000 steps a day is a great way to build up your physical activity. All physical activity causes tiny tears in your muscles, which in turn leads to muscle growth and increase in strength. Walking helps stabilize blood sugar. When you're physically active, your body uses up more of that glucose that's circulating in your bloodstream. It also helps insulin work more effectively. Physical activity is important for preventing and managing high blood pressure. Getting your daily steps in will reduce the stiffness in your blood vessels, allowing blood to move around more freely. Walking helps improve your flexibility, which in turn helps your posture, reduces your risk for injury, and also decreases the number of aches and pains you feel on a day-to-day. Walking boosts your energy levels. Physical activity is a great way to boost your energy levels and fight fatigue, as it strengthens the heart and improves your circulation. Walking also improves your mood. Physical activity, like walking, triggers the release of neurotransmitters like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine, all of which play roles in mood control. I walk 10,000 steps a day every day for 1 month. I wanted to see if A, I could achieve 10,000 steps a day, and secondly, I wanted to see if it really did make any changes to my physical and mental well-being. A week before the challenge, I plotted my steps for the week to see where I stood on the activity range. My target was to achieve 70,000 steps for the week, and I only achieved 39,000 steps for the week. So it was clear that I was going to have to make some changes in order to achieve this target. I decided I was primarily going to try and increase my daily steps during my working hours, so as not to affect my downtime and my recreation time. My target was to get as many steps in during working hours as I possibly could. And the shortfall from any of the steps that I couldn't achieve during work were going to be taken up on my evening walks with my dog. So on a day where I was particularly busy at work, I would have to do a shorter walk with the dog, and on a day where I was particularly sedentary at work, I would do a much longer walk with the dog. So I changed my morning routine at work. In the mornings when I would do my shift rounds around the factory and I would look at various pieces of equipment, I would take my time and I would really do more steps. I would walk longer distances. I would walk into deeper nooks and crannies, and I would, really conduct my checks in a much more thorough way than I used to. And that resulted in surprisingly a 2,000 step increase in my daily steps. Just that morning routine. Additionally, during my lunch break, where I would usually sit down and listen to a podcast while I ate my lunch, I decided I would go for a walk. So I started walking during my lunch hour. I managed to add another 2,000 steps just in my lunch break. Yes, it did mean I had to eat things that I could eat on the go, like a sandwich, or I was eating bits of fruit. But to be perfectly fair, I did start to really enjoy the walking part of my break. It broke the day up. Any stress that I had built up in the morning seemed to disappear. And when I came back after my lunch break, I was feeling far more focused and ready to take on the next half of the day. The other difference I noticed whilst trying to maintain the 10,000 steps a day was I was consistently walking the dog every night. Whereas before, I would always look for a reason why I couldn't walk the dog, or I would try and make an excuse that I was tired from work. I would walk the dog every night religiously because I still had 2,000 to 3,000 steps to rack up on the evening. As I walked the dog, I discovered that, I really enjoyed listening to my podcasts while I was walking, and I started to incorporate listening to my podcasts while I walk, which did feel like I was multitasking and achieving a bit more than my original time. By getting a really good routine where I felt like I was focused on achieving those walking hours or those walking steps for the day, it gave my day some really good structure, and it felt like it gave me increased motivation. Every time I achieved the 10,000 steps, I did feel like I had done well. I started sleeping better in the nighttime, and I can only attribute that to as feeling a little bit more active. By the end of the experiment, on an evening, my body was feeling a lot more tighter. My legs were feeling tight. I was feeling quite physically fitter. And this is just 10,000 steps a day. This is not a massive amount of steps. So again, walking is really good place to start, especially for somebody who's not achieving the basic. And I think that's the important part, is 10,000 steps a day should be the minimum amount of steps we do a day for our bodies. That activity level I think is important. And I did personally feel like the 10,000 steps a day makes myself feel so much better. And mentally, I felt so much more motivated. I felt less tired. I felt generally much more positive. Again, it could be the placebo effect. It could be arrangement of all the other things that I do in my life to try and make my life better. However, I did notice a massive difference in how I felt after 30 days of walking 10,000 steps a day. The weekends were an area where I particularly found it difficult to achieve the 10,000 steps. And I think it's because, like most of us, we work during the week. On the weekends, we want to lie in bed. We want to have an extra, couple of hours in bed. Then we wake up and we lounge around the house. We might watch a movie, or we might go for, to the shops. And by the end of the day, I was on like 3,000 steps. So that was requiring a massive walk. So what I decided was I tried to incorporate it with some family time and try to get the whole family involved. And that didn't really work as well as I would have liked it to work. However, I did eventually just settle into putting my headphones on, putting an hour-long podcast on, and just walking until that podcast was finished. I really started to enjoy it. I felt like at first I wanted to do it with my family and have like some family time. But then I started thinking, well, if I'm going to do this on my own, maybe I can turn it into some me time. While I was walking and I was listening to my podcast and I was thinking through things, I found I had my best ideas when I did my long walks on the weekend. The first sort of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I was thinking about, I need to do this still, I need to do that still, I need to get this done. But after that, after you got into your steadying, you could feel your legs getting a bit more pumped up and you could feel your heart rate going up. All of a sudden, I felt like, right, I need to get this, I don't need to get this done. I need to focus on this. Oh, look at that. The sun is lovely on my face. The wind is blowing. And look at that bird. And all of a sudden, I started noticing things around me. And it wasn't a normal experience for me because I usually generally don't do a lot of physical activity. And that hour with my own thoughts and getting the heart rate up and getting home, I absolutely felt great afterwards. And it really set the rest of the day up. So I would try and get the walk done, sort of before lunchtime. And the rest of the day, I felt like I was more in tune with my family. I felt like I was more interested in what was going on around me. Generally, it really felt really good to do the longer walks on the weekend. Plus, on the evenings, on the weekends, when I got into bed, I felt like I had still done my activity levels. I didn't feel like I'd had a lazy day, even though I hadn't achieved a hell of a lot on the grand scheme of things. I had achieved my 10,000 steps. There were a number of positives from walking 10,000 steps in a month. That my weight had dropped 2.5 kilograms over the period of the month without me changing any of my diet. So without changing any of my diets, my usual routines, I ended up losing 2.5 kilos just by increasing my activity. I've already discussed how I felt mentally and how my mood changed and how I felt a lot better. And I could see how walking and doing physical activity can definitely help with your mood and relieve your stress from your daily life. And lastly, I noticed a massive improvement in my sleep. I found that I was sleeping so much better the days I was achieving 11,000 or 12,000 steps. It sort of motivated me to try and push the envelope more all the time. The ability to lie in your pillow at 10 o'clock at night and just go straight to sleep, when you're a 40-year-old person, that's a great feeling, to be able to go straight to sleep on a night time. And whether it's the activity or the fact that you're getting rid of the stress from the day and you're having a bit of time to sort of just clear your thoughts, either way, my sleep improved dramatically. So there is definitely something to walking 10,000 steps a day. Now, I don't know if it's the fact that just being mindful about our activity and getting out in the sun and enjoying some time with your thoughts has made it feel like such a great benefit to me. So I will continue to do the 10,000 steps as a personal minimum. Whether all the health benefits claimed are real, time will only tell. But I do believe that having a minimum level of activity strive to on a daily basis is good for our mental and physical health. So over my last month, I've put together a few top tips to try and achieve your 10,000 steps a day, to make it as easy and light as possible. So the first one is take your dog for a walk. If you don't have a dog, meet up with a friend and walk with them and their dog. Or better yet, offer your services at a local animal shelter to walk their dog. Walking a dog and taking the dog out for a walk is not only something to focus on, it's a great way of keeping your momentum up, especially if you've got a dog like mine who likes to pull and you try and keep up with them and you make a mental note of, I'm going to try and walk as fast as I can. It's a great way to get your stats in and improve your times. I found listening to a great quality podcast about something that I find really interesting really helped make the time disappear. Or music, having something to listen to and focus on really helps you distract yourself from the task, especially if you don't enjoy walking. At first, I thought I didn't enjoy walking, but towards the end I really started to enjoy the walking. But mostly because I wasn't really focused on the actual walking itself. I was focusing on the change of scenery, the sun, just enjoying my time outdoors. Try and include the family in your walks. So instead of deciding to spend the day on the couch watching a movie, take the family out to the park and kick a ball around and go for a walk and just try and spend some time outdoors. I think a lot of the time is we don't spend enough time outdoors, and walking is a great way to get the family involved and together. So when you're at work, we're all really guilty of it. Instead of walking down the corridor to speak to somebody, we just send an email. And what I've found is a great way of increasing your steps a day is instead of sending an email and just asking a question, just get up, walk over to their office and ask the question. And additionally, talk about walking to everybody. And you might find that instead of having a one-to-one meeting with somebody, You can have a walk and talk and walk through the factory or walk around the office block or walk just on the street and discuss what you were going to discuss at a desk and get your steps up. And that way you're not only improving yourself, you're teaching somebody else that, activity is really good. You might find that the constructiveness of your meetings improves because you're not stuck in an office. People tend to open up and you might get a lot more from it. And another thing I started doing was when you go to the supermarket, park as far away as you can from the main door. So that extra 50 to 60 or 100 steps there and back soon adds up, especially if you're ending up going to 2 or 3 shops in a day or fetching the kids from school. I always park as far away as I can and I walk in. That was adding 1,000 steps a day easy to my steps a day without any effort or real changes in time. Additionally, if you go to an appointment and you arrive early, rather than sitting in your car or sitting in the reception or playing on your phone, take a walk for the 5 minutes you're early. Walk 2.5 minutes in whichever direction and then walk 2.5 minutes back. Use that time, rather than sitting, playing on our phones, use that time to get your steps in. And lastly, if you work in an office complex and you have a lift or the stairs, choose the stairs. Stairs are a great way of increasing your steps. And it counts just as much going up as it does going down. So, you might battle to go up. If you can't go up, use the elevator up, but use the stairs down until you get to your fitness levels up where you can go up and down, no problem. And lastly, it doesn't matter if you can't do 10,000 steps a day. The objective is to do the maximum amount of steps you can and then figure out ways to increase. If you can do 5,000 steps a day, do 5,000 steps a day. Do that for a month. Then do 5,500 or 6,000 steps and just continuously push yourself a little bit as far as you can. The important thing is it's the consistency. 10,000 steps a day is great, but if you're expecting to see a massive change in your life in 10 days or 30 days, it's not how it works. It's like brushing your teeth. Brushing your teeth once a week is not going to do the same effect as brushing your teeth twice a day for 60 years or 70 years. The whole point of it is the consistency. It's the consistency of having the habit that you achieve every day. If you have to start off low and build yourself up. It's not a race, and in the end, the competition is only with yourself. As long as you are continuously stepping forward and increasing your steps and improving yourself, you will be getting the longevity benefits from this exercise. The most important part for me is that I share my experiences with you and hopefully inspire you to make the positive steps in your life and start your own journey. However you decide, whatever first step you decide to take, whatever you decide is the most important thing you want to change in your life, is up to you. But knowing that we all have the tools, and we all have the experiences, and we all have the skills within us to change our lives, just one step at a time, one project at a time, one experiment at a time. Society is great for making us look externally for solutions to our problems, be it antidepressants or the latest craze or retail therapy or social media or any of these things that we look to for our solutions, when the actual solution is within us. All we need to do is pay attention and the solution will present itself. And there's many times you'll do something and you're like, well, this is not working for me, I don't feel like it. That doesn't mean that it will never work. It just means it's not right for you. Everybody's different, and what works for me won't necessarily work for you. However, setting yourself small goals like 10,000 steps a day really can help get your mind into the right place. And it's the little wins. You have a few little wins and before you know it, you're motivated. And once you're motivated, there's nothing that can stop you from changing your life. And this is the objective. The objective is not everybody has to do as you say. They just have to see you doing your best. And they naturally want to do the same. People naturally just want to be the best version of themselves. We just don't know how to do it. And that's why we spend all this time asking for people's advice or spend all our money trying to buy it. But it doesn't cost money. It just costs time and effort and dedication to yourself. So till next time, keep your body moving, make effort to be as active as you can with your friends and your family, and listen to your body while consciously working to become the best version of yourself. See you next time.